There's been word going around and there's been talk about something called a bullet train match. Have you guys heard about this shit? I'm sure you have. Minoru Suzuki, this is the guy that wrestled Darby Allin at Collision last week, and he was the surprise opponent of Darby Allin. He's going to be fighting in an actual bullet train. This train is going to be traveling from Tokyo to Nagoya, and Minoru's going to be facing someone called Sanshiro Tagaji in a false count anywhere match. So I've seen matches in boiler rooms, I've seen matches in grocery stores, but I've never heard of a bullet train before, or having a wrestling match or a fight for a wrestling show in a bullet train. But apparently that is a thing, and it's going to go down September 18th. And speaking of AEW, Rob Van Dam, there's been talks that he was going to show up at the Wembley and potentially face Jungle Boy. And the rumors are somewhat true. We'll get into that more later on in the show, because RVD actually made an appearance on Dynamite instead. And another thing that was announced on Dynamite was that the Elite, all of the members of the Elite, they all signed new long-term contract extensions for 4 years with AEW. It was also reported that they received pay increases, all of them, and the Young Bucks are still going to be the EVPs. Must be nice to be in the Elite. But now that we got all that out of the way, back to business now. AEW Dynamite. This is episode number 200, and they've made it this far. It's been quite some time, and it doesn't even feel like it's been that long since AEW first started. That's how fast time flies sometimes, folks. And for good measure, to start off this episode 200 of Dynamite, in celebration, it starts off with one of the originals, one of the starters of all of this, and that's Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho's teamed up with Takeshita, and he faced his old faction members, his current faction members. What are they? Are they not? I don't know. Daniel Garcia and Sammy Guevara. And I say I don't know because before we get into this match, let's get this straight. Let's get down to the nitty gritty of this on why this is even happening right now. So Chris Jericho, he's been getting scouted by Don Callis to join Don Callis' family, to join his faction with Takeshita. Jericho is stuck in the middle between Don Callis and his own faction, the JAS, and Jericho's faction members from the JAS, one by one, have kind of been expressing their frustration with Jericho because Jericho is actually considering joining Don Callis. And every time Chris Jericho gets confronted by one of his faction members, he seems upset. He seems like he's stuck in the middle. And every time one of Chris Jericho's faction members goes up to him to express their frustration, Chris Jericho seems upset about it, like he's stressed out about it. But now he's wrestling against his own faction members, and he's teaming up with Takeshita, who works for Don Callis. So Daniel Garcia and Sammy Guevara, they're working well together now. But what happened with Sammy's story of him trying to be babyface? Now let's backtrack here a little bit. Stay with me. After the Four Pillars match with Sammy, Darby, Jungle Boy, and MJF, the four-way for the heavyweight championship, there was a tease there that Sammy Guevara was going to turn babyface. They even did this whole announcement that Sammy Guevara is going to be a father to try to babyface him even more. Every time Sammy Guevara he would come out and he would look also stuck in between, do I want to work with my faction members who are heels, and just giving Daniel Garcia these looks like, I don't want to be a part of this type thing. And there was even some tease that maybe Sammy was going to turn babyface by going against Chris Jericho, but they ended up teaming up together instead. So is Sammy a babyface now? Is Daniel Garcia a babyface now too?